Hi everyone, this is a different kind of video. This isn't something that I wish I would have known or my story. This video is kind of an overview of how I wish people would have been able to support me going through my grieving process and how you can potentially help someone that you love while they are grieving. So if you are the griever watching this and you feel like what I'm explaining is something that can help you, feel free to share this video with them, and maybe that can be your way of asking for help if you're not able to do it yourself. So for me, one of the things that would have helped me a lot is, and you've got to remember, in my situation, I have kids that were involved in this. So, those meal trains that people talk about, like bringing dinners, I know it's annoying, but that would have helped a lot. We were in the middle of COVID when my husband died, so the whole world was like already turned upside down and afraid of everything, but it would have been nice to have people bring meals. I did have my late husband's sister brought a pizza off, or dropped a pizza off at our house, I think on the front porch with some slushies or something, for my kids because their dad used to take them to get slushies. And so she did that. And then I know a couple of my family members, I think two family members, they did bring dinner. And that was really helpful because I wasn't thinking. I wouldn't realize what time it was or want to process. Dinner is hard enough to plan. It's like you have to do it every day for the rest of your life for your family. But when you're grieving, especially in that initial like shock period, thinking about dinner is really, really hard. And so anytime you can help with things like that, I personally think that that's like a really easy way to be a blessing to someone, and to help them. So I didn't have that. Partially blame COVID, mostly blame COVID, but also just that's not exactly how the world is anymore. Times have changed. But, so bringing meals helps anybody. You know, it's just one thing that's not on their plate anymore. You don't have to say yes to that. If you don't want to, that's okay. So make sure that you ask the griever, like, it's not a burden. Can I please bring this to you? Can I please set up a meal train plan for you with other people? Get their permission, but if they give you the go ahead, make sure that you do that. It's really important, to be helpful. The next thing that would have been really helpful for me is if someone would have helped me with my kids. They were grieving and going through a lot, but kids obviously are going to grieve differently than an adult. Like I said, the world was shut down, but because it's not anymore, I wish someone would have taken my kids to do things, to distract them, kind of just so I could sit with my feelings for a little while, because I was so focused on theirs that it was hard for me to do anything with mine except just feel devastation. But bringing them to like the zoo for a couple of hours or a museum would get them out of the house. It gets them distracted, and it kind of gives you a break. So that would have helped with that. Thoughtful gifts. And I don't mean like go out and buy somebody a bunch of crap. Buying you things isn't going to make you happy. But things like if your loved one had like a favorite sports team, like a throw blanket to snuggle up in, or just anything like that, something that, a locket necklace that you could put the picture of them in, that's comforting. The next thing is just being around. It was so lonely when my husband died. The world was upside down. My kids were grieving. I was going through all of what I was going through. People were already making me feel like I was grieving wrong, which, like, You could even do a normal kind of grieving in the middle of COVID. You couldn't plan a funeral. You couldn't do anything that you're supposed to do. So it was just, bam, that's how it is. And FaceTiming with me, maybe. Now I would encourage people to go and have someone just sit with them, even if it's just for an hour. Don't let your loved one isolate themselves and be alone all the time. Even if it's just being able to have someone around and all they can tolerate is like small doses of people, I think that would have helped. Just an hour here, an hour there. Just to have a shoulder to cry on if I needed it. Somebody around. The next thing is helping with daily tasks. Obviously, like, you don't need to take on this person's entire responsibility of life, but doing a load of dishes or folding a little laundry, just little things that can help. Because when you're going through grief, especially like the first year, you're not thinking clearly. It's hard. It's really hard, which I don't know, it's hard to explain unless you've been through it. The next one is to listen and give good advice. Encourage support groups, offer to go with them to support groups, or therapy. Make sure that you talk to them about getting into therapy. If they're afraid to go by themselves, go with them. That's all really important, I think. Talking about it, talking about what happened, listening, just being a good support system. But also have your boundaries, right? Like, you have to have boundaries. So if you are only available for a certain amount of time, then just make it known, like, hey, I'm open from this time to this time. Does any time in between there work for me to stop by and just say hi and check in with you and see how you're doing, see if you need anything, or do you need me to pick up anything while I'm out, or even a phone call. I'm running to the grocery store. Do you need anything? Do you want to go with me? Just to get them out of the house. Any of those things are excellent ways to support someone when they're going through grief. There's a million ways to help someone. There's also a million ways to not help someone. So I think while I'm talking about the things I wish people would have done, I'm also going to talk about the things I wish they didn't. I wish that people didn't leave me to feel so alone. I wish people didn't make me feel guilty for the way that I was grieving. I wish people would not have made me feel bad if I said anything bad about him. I wish that people would let me feel my anger instead of telling me that I need to calm down or that I'm just sad or anything. I hated when people said to me, it's been a month and you're still like this, because it had only been a month. It had only been a month, or it had only been 2 months. It had only been 6 months. When you have been with someone or had someone in your life for over a decade and you tell them, like, it's been a month since they died. Think about what you're saying. It took you over a decade to love that person that much, and someone is telling you you have to have your shit together in a month or in 6 months. That's not true. I wish people would have made sure that they were looking out for me and that I wasn't making life-altering or life-changing decisions. I know you can't stop someone from making a decision when they're an adult. I do. But forcefully trying to do it, using manipulation, using guilt tactics, using shame tactics, using anything like that to try to stop someone from making a bad decision, that's not okay. Being a friend, offering kind words, explaining why you feel it's a bad decision, asking your loved one to reconsider until you've been further along in the grief process, or hey, let's run this by your therapist, or Anything like that is appropriate, but shaming and guilting and manipulating and all of those things make you a toxic support system, which I've said in earlier videos should not be around the griever at that time. I made a lot of life-changing decisions very quickly because I just wanted to feel okay again. And it didn't sink in until a couple years, honestly, within the last year is when it sunk in. So it had been over 2 years um, before I really realized I wasn't ready to make any life-changing decisions. I made big ones. And I shouldn't have had to make those decisions. I shouldn't have had to go through the things that I went through in that period of time. I should have had a better support system. So that's something that I hope people can take away from this video is, like I've said, high stress. So often in these videos is the importance of a support system, a safe, non-toxic support system, and how you can help your loved one. Saying negative things about the person that they loved isn't going to help at all. It's not going to be like, well, here's one that I got. When I would say, I miss him. Well, if he was here, you guys would be fighting. Is that helpful? No. Is that logical? It might be. Probably would have been fighting at some point. We were going through a divorce. But there was good things, and that's what I was thinking about. Like, I was grieving the good parts of him. And there was a lot of good parts of him. So, even if your loved one is struggling with grief from a toxic relationship or from something you think is trivial, or even if their grief is like they lost a pet and they're grieving and you think that is so stupid, you're not a pet person, and you're like, why is this person mourning their cat for 2 years? You have no idea what that person was going through emotionally with that cat by their side. And sometimes that pet was the only thing in the world that made them feel not alone. So when people say, like, my dog saved my life, that's not that crazy to believe. Sometimes having that unconditional love that a pet can give you gets you through a lot of hard things. My dog that I got, she's almost, how old is she? Almost 2. She'll be 2 in a few months. But she was an impulse that I got, one of those life-changing things, but my dog got me through so much, and I'm so thankful for her. And I'd be devastated. I would be absolutely devastated if something happened to her, and it would take me a long time to get over it. I mean, not even over it, but through it. And just because you don't think it's a big deal, or just because you think someone's not grieving the way that you think that they should be grieving, or doing things the way that you think you would do it, and that's one thing too. If you are just someone who has never gone through the grieving process, and you're just like, if somebody that I loved died, this is how I would deal with it. You shut up. Shut up. Don't talk. Don't say those things, because you have no idea. You have no idea. I never in a million years thought that I would be a widow at the age that I was. And I could have easily looked at other people and said things like, why are they doing that stuff? They obviously, like, didn't love them very much, or they're acting kind of crazy now. Like, it's very easy to judge someone else. I mean, obviously, everybody judges everybody. That's how the world works now. But your person that's grieving doesn't need to hear those things, and they don't need to be judged because they had no idea how they were going to go through it until they are going through it. You don't know how you're going to deal with it until you have to deal with it. You don't know how it's going to hurt until you have to feel it. And so please keep those things in mind. Be a support system. Don't tear someone apart. Stand by their side, but don't tell them what to do. And make sure that you are kind of keeping an eye on them, because you're going to notice things a lot faster than they are if they start to go downhill. And you may need to intervene to help potentially save their life too. It's a job, but that's part of loving people, right? When we love people, we love them through the good and the bad. the ups and the downs, and that's not just marriage, that's friendship, that's family. And when I say family, I by no means mean your blood. That does not mean blood. It means the people you choose to have as your family. My family, mostly, are not blood relatives of me. And that's my family. And there's a lot of people that are blood relatives of me that's another video. So yeah, please make sure that you are supporting your griever. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope that helps.